competency exam.
Speaking,
President Biden and Trump.
Speaking of a wake-up call, many Democrats are alarmed at what the Supreme Court did this past week in terms of ruling on presidential immunity, saying that presidents effectively have immunity when it comes to official acts. You are very close to former President Trump. This is someone who pushed to overturn the election in late 2020, early 2021. He pushed officials who were working in an official capacity, like then Vice President Mike Pence, to the brink in terms of how to use their official powers. How will Trump use power in a second term in the wake of this Supreme Court ruling?
Well, you're going to have the NATO leader on next. I think what President Trump will do when it comes to NATO is pick up where he left off. Pay more. About 18 members of NATO pay the 2% required. Sam Nunn had a proposal in 1986.
But I'm talking about, Senator, how he's going to use power inside the White House and the administration.
I think he's going to use power to get NATO to pay more. I think he's going to secure the border by using executive action. I think he's going to be a damn good president to right the ship. I think he's going to open up America to oil and gas exploration. I think he's going to undo all the problems created by Biden. The question is, will he be on a revenge tour? He's going to be on a success tour. He's going to get us energy independent. He's going to control our borders. He's going to get our NATO allies to pay more. We have to deal with China. We're the sole supplier of arms for Israel. NATO should pay more. I'm a big internationalist.
What gives you confidence about that, Senator Graham?
But I want to tell... because of what he did before.
Well, he's had a lot of grievances on social media in his speeches in recent weeks.
When he was president of the United States, he had the most secure border in American history. When he was president of the United States, we had Arabs making peace with Israel. When he was president of the United States, we were energy independent. Inflation was down. The best indication of what Trump will do in the future, policy-wise, is what he did in the past. I love a policy debate. You know, senators want some policy debate. Bring it on. The policy of socialism versus the policy of freedom.
Senator,
that's what this is about. But I'm worried right now about the capability of our president to be commander-in-chief.
Senator Graham, you want to make this about policy, and that's a fair point to make as a U.S. senator. But in recent weeks, former President Trump on his social media has been amplifying calls, circulating posts, calling for televised military tribunals. That's his phrase that he amplified on his social media for people like former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. You say he's not going to be on a revenge tour, but he's been posting on his social media about not only taking revenge, but having televised military tribunals. And you're someone who has served this country in uniform. Do you agree with his push and amplification of those proposals?
Here's what I know. I know we're not going to have televised tribunal trials of Liz Cheney or anybody else. Here's what I do believe. I do believe that the country is at an inflection point. This is the most important election literally in decades, maybe ever. If you want to change the course we're on, you need to go back to President Trump. Policy does matter. I am confident that if he's president of the United States, very quickly we'll get our border under control, we'll become energy independent again, and we'll bolster our allies and we'll put our enemies on their back foot. This is a very dangerous time. I do not believe, I like President Biden, but what I've seen, I am very concerned that this man is not capable of being commander-in-chief for 4 more months. So let's have testing to resolve this debate. Let's test Trump. Let's test Biden. Let's test everybody in the line of succession.
You've made that point clear. Senator Graham, you've played golf with